Hello, hello, hello. All right. Let's see who's with us. Who's with us? This is Nate Wolf, Journey to Truth, and it looks like we are live. I'm just checking here. If you pop in here, make a comment, and I'm just going to type in the chat here. Say a quick hello. This should be streaming on YouTube, and right now I know that Anthony and Grant are finishing up on their stream, so we'll wait just a minute to see who pops in over here. Hey, there's Jen Wolf. Okay. The loveliest lady in the chat, Jen Wolf, my wife. Awesome. I know there's going to be several people popping on over from Take on the World TV. Anthony Stover and Jake Grant are finishing up one of their awesome streams that they do. And this is a pre-recorded stream on their new channel, well, I guess their new weekly show, which is called For What It's Worth. And they've had some really great topics. And so as you're popping in here, we're going to go ahead and get rolling here in just a minute. But some of you are going, Journey to Truth. I vaguely remember that show. Well, as some of you know, it's been several weeks, almost 2 months. I started a new job about 5 weeks ago. And so I was in quite a bit of a transition. And so that's what was going on with that. I had to get up to speed with the new job and see if I could survive, the transition here. And things are going well. I'm very, very busy. Obviously, I've had to adjust my schedule, but it's going well. And so I'm very, very thankful. And I'm just checking my phone. Yep, looks like we are definitely live on Take on the World TV. And I see Miss Marla Palmer in the chat as well. So welcome, sis. But I was racking my brain on what I wanted to begin again with on Journey to Truth. And I had put out that last video about, who are the Jews and the Gentiles and, what's going on with all of this. And people were bugging me to do a follow-up, basically. And I'm still thinking about doing that, but it really wasn't something that I felt motivated to do or that I needed to do. I really felt like that particular video was what I wanted to put out. And then tonight, I wanted to have my friend Ruben on as a special guest. He's been on fire with some stuff that he's been believing and teaching. And so that's really what this is tonight, a special guest with my friend Ruben. He's going to tell a little bit about himself and introduce. So without further ado, I'll welcome my friend Ruben Gay, who is in Arkansas, or Arkansas, as we used to say. But welcome to Journey to Truth on Take on the World TV.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. I'm excited that you are with me tonight. I know we talked about doing this about 3 weeks or so ago, and you were on vacation, and I was going to have the studio slot in my studio. 9 p.m. was going to be free again for live shows. So I was like, man, I got to come back to Journey to Truth with the live. And I messaged you about one of the recent videos that you did about Sunday in the Catholic Church and Sabbath. And I thought it was excellent. And so I mirrored it on my channel and pushing about 300 views on there, which it really impressed me.
Crazy.
And so we decided after talking, hey, let's do, a show on Journey to Truth and welcome you on. So you're going to share about your truth journey and about some of the, specific things in the recent videos that you've been studying and uploading. Mm-hmm. But Ruben, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself in general, and whatever you want to share is fine.
Well, like you said, I was born and raised in Arkansas, God's country, and have wonderful parents, wonderful mother, wonderful nice. Stepdad, wonderful wife, got a couple kids, not 2-year-old, I shouldn't say that, but he's almost there, and a 9-year-old. And let's see, I recently got out of the military. I was in the Navy. But I guess before that, I went to Harding. So that's where kind of our little connection there. Harding, and born and raised in the Churches of Christ, very conservative Church of Christ, until some studies recently got me me observing the Sabbath. And right now I'm utilizing the post 9/11 GI Bill, going back to school for Right now it's accounting, but it might end up being a marketing. I don't know yet.
Nice.
Kind of having fun with my stepdad's business, and so
Cool.
might go in that direction. But yeah,
Nice. So for those that don't know, Harding University is a private Christian school down in Arkansas that Jennifer and I went to. We're a little bit older, I think, than you, Ruben. But we got married right out of high school in 1992, and a few weeks after we got married, we ended up going down to Harding University in Arkansas for college. It was a Bible college, and I got my Bible degree. My wife got her social work degree, and we had a great time down there. Met some wonderful Christian friends and Christian couples, and we were there from 92 to 96. So when were you at Harding?
A little bit later. I was there from 2011 to 2014.
Okay. So how old are you, Ruben?
I'm 28.
Okay. See, now I thought you were in your 30s, so I can give you a compliment and say you seem more mature than the age that, your peers typically would represent at 28 years old. I was thinking you're probably like 35. So hopefully that doesn't make you feel old. It makes you feel mature and have a lot of experience. So yeah, Jen Wolf here says, yeah, we're just a tiny bit older than
just
Ruben.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I won't ask you what year you were born in, but I know I was born in 73.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit older, but I'm excited to see, younger guys and younger people getting involved in the truth, the truth telling. It's nice to have fresh faces and people who are, excited about what they're learning. And so, okay, so you give us a little bit of background. We have a lot in common, and even the fact that, you were in the Churches of Christ for so long. And, I was in the Churches of Christ for many, 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 many years. Yeah. And so refresh my memory. I want to say it was probably about a year ago, or I can't remember exactly, but we talked on Facebook Messenger, right?
Yes.
I think that's the first time that we kind of engaged. And I was excited because I think you had seen that I had Harding University on my Facebook profile, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was creeping.
You were creeping, and you're like, dude, Harding University.
Yeah.
So we had some conversations, and of course, at that time, you were a believer of a certain idea that many of the people in the chat would agree with. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about maybe just the beginning of your what most people term as their truth journey. How did that start? What did it look like? What were some of the topics that you first got started into?
All right. So the beginning, I would say, started at Harding. Me and a couple of guys been my best friends since the beginning of time, it seems like. But one of their professors was talking about something that went totally against what we have always taught, always been brought up.
Yeah.
And something we've never heard of before. And he had book, chapter, verse, and he was in the Hebrew and everything. And we're like, oh, we're about to come after you and we're going to prove you wrong. And then it started flipping the other direction. And that topic then was the B'nai HaElohim, the sons of God and the Nephilim. And so that was probably the beginning. And that topic took us to 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning at Harding. Just kept on. We kept having conversations, the round table conversations, trying to figure this out, and started out like a smear campaign, and ended up turning around on us.
So let me ask you something. I won't have you say the name of the professor, but I can tell you that a couple of years ago. Well, actually, I can't say a couple, it's probably several, maybe 5 or 6. I don't remember. But it was one of the last times that Jennifer and I were down at Harding for their fall Bible lectureship. And we were visiting at one of the congregations, and there was a Bible professor. He was particularly in the Old Testament. And he was probably, I'm guessing he's probably around 50. I don't know how old he is, but he was teaching one of the Bible classes, and he was talking about Nephilim and something else. And it like blew our minds. And I bet you it's the same guy, but we actually emailed him about it, and we never heard back. And I thought maybe he got cold feet. Like maybe he started talking about some of these topics, and they were kind of like, hey, dude, you need to, dial it down a notch. So I bet you we're talking about the same guy. But anyway,
Probably.
so he, you guys were like, hey man, you can't be bringing that stuff in here. We're going to prove you wrong. And so please continue.
So so then, like I said, we had conversations going into all the nights or all hours of the night, and then ended up like, actually, this he's right. He's right.
Nice.
And so then after that, then it was like, well, what else do we need to look at? What else did we think that we knew? We knew that you only know what you know. And then, so we had to ask our knowledge, like what we thought we knew. Okay, well, is it true?
Yeah.
And so we started questioning other things. And we just, right out the bat, let's just question the thing that that is after every single sermon, and that's baptism.
Yeah.
Luckily, well, I guess luckily for us, and it felt just to have something that stayed the same, but even got a stronger belief going into that study. Luckily that we were able to keep that. We went deep into the study on baptism
and some of the doctrines that you guys had always held to, and some of those still held fast for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. So what else did you test?
So then now we get into the military, and one of my buddies has seen a video, and this one was by Eric Dubé. This was his stuff, and some of his stuff is I definitely do not agree with at all. But as my preacher for 25 years of my life, he always said, you got to eat the meat and take out the bones.
Yeah.
And that's with everybody. So we were just, I listened to him, but I listened to him because I was a little scared for my friend. Like, I thought that he was going a little,
You're like, oh my goodness, what is?
I was like, all right,
I got to be his wingman here. I got to pull him out of the flames.
Yep, I'm gonna respect him because he's a friend. I love him. Gonna listen to what he has to say. But I'm just, we'll make it through this together. And it was over biblical cosmology, of course, from Eric Dubé's standpoint.
Okay.
And
was it something along the lines of the 200 proofs that Earth's not a globe or something like that?
Yes.
I know he has a lot of videos, but when you said Eric Dubé, obviously everybody who's aware was sitting there, okay, flat Earth. So flat Earth was what your friend got into.
Yeah. Okay. He was like, and it wasn't, he didn't come at it like he was like, hey, I'm a believer right now. He's like, he made some interesting points, and we probably need to look into this. And so we did, and it didn't happen overnight. Obviously, it was years, because that's quite a paradigm. There's a lot of stuff that you have to start questioning.
Yeah,
but
that's a big one. I mean, that's been pretty much the big one, for the last 4 or 5 years, and now other big things are cropping up, of course. But
right.
Go ahead.
But it wasn't until, for me, when I got onto Rob Skiba, because he was connecting now there's 100, 200 proofs. I know that's not his particular one, but the proofs from the Bible, now there's Bible verses on this, and then that
Genesis pretty hard, he hit Genesis pretty hard as a foundation. I think I know which series of videos you're talking about, because I got smacked by him too on that, and the Nephilim as well.
Yeah. And for the Nephilim, he was very good. But that got me more excited. To be able to, it got me more, not exactly excited, but taking it for real now. Like, okay, now you're saying that God said something about this.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to look.
For you is like, it's one thing to talk about, some evidence from, actual science or, dispute, pseudoscience. But now that you're talking and in talking about observation and perception, those can be powerful, truths. But it sounds like you were like me, where it's like, wait a second, the Bible talks about this? Like, I don't remember reading that. I better go back and check this out.
Yeah.
So you took a pretty serious tack once once the Bible, verses started popping up.
Yeah. And we I started, because before I start sharing something with people, I want to at least know a little bit about it. And not a little bit, a lot of it about it. Just so, you don't want to be a fool and don't want to spread false information.
Sure.
But I started talking with people about it, and some people's response initially was, well, let's say for me growing up in the Church of Christ, we had already recognized one thing is that there is a global conspiracy with macroevolution.
Yeah.
It's in every single high school. It's in every single college. You're a fool if you don't believe in macroevolution. And the monkey to man. And so we had already believed that, and people were like, well, why would you think that they'd say, well, that's a conspiracy,
Mm-hmm.
that the flat earth is a conspiracy. And it's like, but you, who I'm talking to, the people in my circle, but we already believe it on this. Why wouldn't, as my friend said, why wouldn't, if the devil, let's see, he's got the world wrapped around lying about where we came from. He's got the world wrapped around lying about where we're going. Why wouldn't he lie about where we're at?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't
very
that be
intuitive, very fair and intuitive question?
Yeah. And that was not on my own. That's one of the round table guys. But he was like,
so
why,
just so
why
everybody knows, just to reiterate, so this is really cool. I have to belabor this point for Ruben, because when he told me, he's like, oh yeah, I got two friends, we're in this group of three guys, and we look into these truths together, and we if one of us has something kind of interesting that we're biting into, the other guys will take a look at an honest look at it. And so it's really cool. So, one of these guys you're talking about is in this group of three, the three truther amigos. And so, yeah, anyway, I just wanted to, highlight that. I think that's really cool that three guys from Harding University, so I'm not the only one, I'm not like Elijah hiding in the cave saying, I'm the only one, I should just kill me, So, yeah, go ahead. So that just continued, with your friend's question as well. I mean, being such an honest and fair question.
Yeah. And now they're still not, and how we eventually, so far in our experience with each other, we eventually come to a unified understanding. They're not where I am with the flat earth right now, because I've gone, I don't know. Which pill did I take? The red pill?
The red pill.
Yeah. I've gone way into yeah. And especially like I've read specifically studying firmament, rakia, stereoma. And those words, I for this video coming up this weekend, did the Sabbath and doing a word study on that. But before that, last year I was doing the study on the rakia, firmament, and throughout the translations, and and showing that the Septuagint, written by all those guys, like what Wes Blaze he's on it. And I was like, wow, we're on the same.
Wes Blaze, man. Yeah. He's been tearing it up and on the Septuagint lately, especially with the memes. He's the meme king.
Yeah. They've been great. And I was like, that's right. Those guys, they were supposed to know the Hebrew. They were supposed to know the Greek. They were supposed to know the law, and they were supposed to be well-renowned people. And there were 70 of them. And they used the word stereoma for rakia. And rakia, and the reason that's important for those that don't know is rakia, it can mean, some people think, it can mean an expanse of plates, but it can mean an expanse. And so they think, the sky, or it can be something hard. Stereoma, it has no middle ground. It is hard.
There's no wiggle room there.
Yeah, there's nothing. And so that, it's like, I grew up here. This is me taking some of the things that I've learned growing up is book, chapter, verse, and you either believe the Bible or you don't. And that's what the Bible says.
Push comes to shove, who are you going to believe? Are you going to take man at his word? Or are you going to take, the Creator at his word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the safe bet for the soul is probably to take the Creator's word.
Absolutely. So the flat earth was certainly a big subject for you.
Oh yeah.
And for many of us, probably one of the biggest subjects. I'm sure you dove into even these biblical meanings and what's really
Mhm.
going on here. And I think that's important because you'll be able to share that knowledge with others and not just say, hey, go watch a YouTube video, or
Right.
this Nate Wolf guy who used to preach over here said blah blah blah. They don't care about that. But when you start saying, hey, go check this out for yourself, and especially hopefully at least those who are part of the fellowship that we were with for years and
Yeah.
years. I mean, they always would say, hey, you've got to look and do your homework. You've got to study to show yourself approved. You've got to
Yep.
look up the words and use the
Yep.
use the tools to help you see what's the original meaning here. What did the original audience understand about this? So very good points. And I can only imagine how many hours you spent
Yeah.
diving into those kind of things.
Yeah.
So anything else that you want to share about the whole flat earth discussion and journey?
Well, I guess really the only thing is the transition to, that was right before, I started going into the Sabbath. Like I
Yeah.
put that on hold. That was a study I was working on, and I had about 17 pages of notes then.
Wow.
Just working on it, and then that came to a halt because I don't know if as a father, I mean,
Yeah.
my whole life has been consumed with this Sabbath ever since it was, I believe, January of this year. It just
So as
something
far as the
something.
timeline, so just so folks are clear, about how
Mhm.
long ago was the whole kickoff was the Nephilim discussion, right? About how long ago
Oh,
was that?
that was in 2013 or 14.
Oh, okay. So that was a
Yeah.
bit ago. And then
Yeah.
when did Flat Earth kind of make its appearance officially for you?
2016 or 17, that time
Okay.
frame.
All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, so it's been a few years for that too as well. So
Mhm.
you kind of came in just a year or two after that whole thing started. Myself included was early spring of 2017, so probably close to that same time.
Probably, yeah.
And then you said the Sabbath discussion became something that you really were interested in seeking out and studying out for yourself and
Mhm.
getting, kind of just engrossed in the study. And that was back in about January, you said?
That's when I knew about it, probably closer to a year and a half ago. I knew
Okay.
that I
Yeah.
should probably study it, but
Yeah.
I ran away from it like Jonah.
Hey, I
I
know
was
I
like,
know you will. Remember we talked about this.
yeah,
You messaged me this last week and you were like, "Dude, about what time was that when you first started looking into Sabbath?" And I'd shared with people, it was at least 2 years ago,
hmm
where it kind of just popped up when I just happened to be doing some studying in the book of Acts. And
hmm yep,
and I'm looking at this and I'm like looking at the Greek and Sabbaton, and I'm like, wait a second, that
yep,
doesn't mean, where do they get one first day of the week from? So we have some things in common in that.
yeah,
So okay, so it started about a year and a half or so ago for you, and you kind of just were like, nah, I think I
yeah,
want to go study other stuff.
yep,
So you were still very engrossed in flat Earth and all of that.
yep, yeah. I was studying that and running away from the Sabbath because that one was going to affect me now, and so and
Yeah, I
there,
get it, brother.
yeah, and there was already like there's enough change happening that I was like, not something else, not this, because and not
You're like,
not
oh,
yeah, not
yeah,
something like that's is home. That my
yes,
Church of Christ home family is where I've been for the past 28 years,
yeah,
and in the same congregation, except when I was in the military or at school.
yeah.
But that
I
was
mean,
my
that's your whole
home,
life. That's your whole
yeah.
life. Yeah.
And we were
Mm,
one of the lucky ones with a preacher that he kept preaching until until his wife was too ill to preach,
mm.
until he had to take care of his wife.
Oh,
So I've had him
so he'd
all of
been
my
there.
life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he had been there your entire life.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would
Wow.
go and I would go up throughout the week, every once in a while, and go hang out with him, just talk with him.
Nice.
3 hours would go by, it was having those memories. And even with the youth minister, the one that, Wes McAdams, having those memories, it was hard. So,
I can only imagine. I mean, it was a difficult transition for Jen and I, but as you could imagine, the whole flat earth thing was what blew up, and I got fired on, on the spot for that. And so it was probably, honestly, the whole Sabbath thing was probably easier for me maybe than for you, because first of all, I was already fired. So I was already, basically kicked out of the church there. I already had made the decision that I wasn't going to be doing congregational, 4-wall ministry anymore. And that was a church that I didn't grow up in. I mean, we had spent almost 7.5 years in the congregation. So we had invested, more than twice at the national average of how long a preacher typically sticks around. I think it's like 2 or 3 years now, sadly. Yeah. But that being said, the Sabbath part was probably easier for me because, you experienced, hey, I'm this congregation, I've grown up my whole life and heard this minister preaching, and I'm sure he preached a lot of truth.
Oh yeah.
And so share whatever you're comfortable with, but it kind of sounds like you brought these truths and tried to engage in some study and even directly, politely, and respectfully reached out to the elders and the preacher, whoever, said, hey, would you be willing to sit down with me and study some of these things out? I'll study with you. We'll just look at scripture. Sounds like that was your intention, which is basically my intention all along with the flat earth thing, was, hey, let's look at Genesis.
Yeah.
But so please continue.
So and the beginning of this year, when I started studying, it took me a few months to probably, what did I say, about end of March, April, to finally, but the thing that had changed, to make me want to study, and not necessarily change, because I had a wife and kids when I had seen it. But I was like, I have a wife and kids, and Ephesians 6, lead your kids, lead your family, in the duty and instruction of the Lord. And so I was like, this is something I can't run away.
You're thinking, man, I have a responsibility to share this truth with my wife and children, and I'm sure maybe at least partially, I know for a lot of people, there's another tug, and that tug is, well, if I go this route, most people are smart enough to do the math in their mind, and they're saying this is going to be a major change, and they might be fearful of how this major change could affect their wife and their kids, especially if you're tied into church, your kids are in the children's program, youth group, whatever ages they are, that sort of thing can be a challenge. But you felt very convicted once you really kind of pulled the trigger definitively for yourself. You felt convicted that you needed to share these truths and lead your family in that. And just so people know, a lot of times when you share, hey, this is something I feel strongly about, a lot of times the critics will say, they'll point out all these other important truths, and they'll say, well, you're talking about this, but you're not talking about any of this other stuff. Well, who's to say that Ruben doesn't talk about other important truths? But obviously, any of us, let's be fair, let's be honest, any of us, no matter what side of the coin you're on, regarding flat earth or other, Sabbath or other important beliefs, when we all feel convicted, right, to teach something, to speak out about something, we have no choice but to follow that, right? Yeah. And so when I kind of came on the flat earth scene and started a channel and was sharing important truths about biblical cosmology, some people were coming at me saying, well, you don't talk enough about Jesus and salvation. It's like, do you even watch my channel? Like, I've posted 10 or more sermons on there, just straight up sermons with invitations at the end of them, and talking about, plan of salvation. it's like, the critics, they will poke fun and poke wherever. But so I just want to say, Ruben has studied a lot of different important spiritual subjects, and it's kind of like, woe is me if I feel convicted to share something and I don't.
Right.
So you had that burden to share with your own family, which is amazing.
Yeah, and burden and the obligation.
Obligation, yeah.
I had to.
So how did that go? Obviously, your kids are young,
Yeah,
but how did that go with your wife? Because obviously, for most people, that can be like the beginning of kind of the deal breaker, right? I
yeah,
mean, a lot of people have struggled with certain subjects with their spouses. So how did that go?
yeah. My wife and I, at the beginning of our marriage, we had our struggles, and we're still just a couple years in.
Yeah,
But we have come to just a great a point in our marriage, and like I haven't I like I was telling you, I haven't had to I just present her. I was like, this is what I found. Here's the stuff. And she's like, well, if it's true, I mean, and looks at it, oh well, that seems right.
wow,
And then we just go. And
wow.
it's
So
great.
she
It's
was
like
like
it's
some,
weird.
yeah. I mean, she was like some wives where they're just like, I mean, I've heard this before from several different people who have said, basically, my wife was like, if it's in the Bible, then I'll
Yeah.
listen. I'll pay attention. I'll follow it. And it didn't
Yeah.
for some people it didn't take their wives even as long as it took them. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so you
That is
guys
true.
were on the same page with that. And so when did you guys start really practicing, keeping the Sabbath, resting on the Sabbath, and shifting some gears? Because for a while you were still with the church that met on Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but then obviously there was some point at which you and your wife were talking about, okay, what do we do now? When
Yeah.
do we start this? How do we implement this? What does this look like, kind of a thing? So
Yeah. That
yeah.
happened in about April.
Okay.
It was about April. So it took me a few months
Yeah.
because I was studying, and and probably part of it releasing, trying to break away from my paradigm.
Yeah.
That might have been part of it too, but trying to make sure that as many angles as I knew I could approach the subject, as many angles as I started trying to think of it from people from the Church of Christ, if they had any, if they talk to me and ask questions,
Yeah.
what would they ask? And so it took me another few months before, from February till April, to where we started, um, observing the Sabbath. And
Yeah.
then it took me about a month or two to where I was like, you know what? And watching a few of your videos, like, I have people around here that may listen, and I need to say something. And so I was like,
Sure.
well, let me try the most expedient way I think that we have right now is social media, and
Yeah. Especially with
utilize that.
all the lockdown stuff, which
Yeah.
really kind of I mean, that happened,
Yeah.
what, mid-March for
Yeah.
most places. So, right as you're kind of coming into this, hey, this is what I believe, and this is what my family is going to do. And that, of course, it's an aspect, this isn't everything, right? But it
Right.
is an
Right.
important aspect of faith and obedience. And so, that's the topic. So that's what we're discussing. But it is important for you to say, hey, I think I need to start a channel and use that media. And you also started a page on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really cool. I popped on there a few weeks ago and saw your link to your video that you had put out,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Whoa!" I told my wife, because we hadn't talked, we hadn't really messaged on Facebook in a while. It'd probably
Mm-hmm.
been at least a few months since we messaged last. I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm pretty sure that Ruben guy right here, I'm pretty sure that's the guy that went to Harding that I talked to months ago on Messenger. And so I scrolled back on my phone. I'm like, yeah. I said, that is so cool. I was like, here he
That's
is. He's
funny.
got a video, about, issues relating to the Sabbath and different things.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So when did you start your channel? It was right around that time then.
Hmm.
You said in April, roughly.
Oh, no, I didn't start the channel for another couple months.
Okay. All right. So it's pretty brand new then.
Yeah, it's new. And so I utilized like I was saying, like looking at your stuff and really just like, okay, Nate fired for truth.
Sorry, bro.
Like,
it does my heart good to know that there were some people associated with the Churches of Christ who didn't think I was a lunatic, or some bad evil guy. So yeah. So when you started it, now you had one video. I think you had a couple. You have what, 3 or 4 videos on there now? Is that right? And the first one was 3. Short, but you were talking about a little bit about the Sabbath, and then this video that I messaged you about that I was excited about, and I gave it a like, and you were like, "Hey, man, thanks for liking the video." And tell us a little bit about what was the subject of that for those who haven't seen it. It is mirrored on my channel as well. Yeah, but first, tell them what's the name of your channel.
Carpe Verum, and that's just Latin. I hope means sees the truth.
Yeah,
that's why I make sure I put sees the truth. That if there's somebody that knows Latin and it's wrong, I'll change it to be correct.
Yes.
But yeah.
So sees the truth. Carpe Verum. Yeah. Yes. Nice. So, everybody remembers the whole Carpe Diem, from the Dead Poets Society, seize the day. Well, this is Carpe Verum, seize the truth. So it's pretty easy to find if you just type in Carpe space Verum. So check out his channel, and please give a subscription there. Check the notification bell. He's got another video coming out, hopefully this Sabbath. But so anyway, I interrupted you, but because I forgot to say, hey, tell us about your channel. But check out the channel. And so the first or the second video that you did, that I messaged you about, tell us a little bit about that one.
So that one's called Catholics Changed Sabbath. And the first 10 minutes is boring on purpose. Like all I do is read their quotes, Catholic quotes of talking about how they changed the Sabbath. And really the introduction is geared towards, again, my where I came from, and it's with Alexander Campbell. And so everybody in the Church of Christ knows who Alexander Campbell is. And he says that the Sabbath didn't come in the room of Sunday, or Sunday didn't come in the room of the Sabbath. And even I found out just recently, Martin Luther himself kept the Sabbath, but that'll bring that up in a few days.
There's some interesting old timey preachers and people back in the Reformation times that, interestingly enough, had things to say about important topics, and even in relation to things like creation and other important subjects. So and so I thought you did a very good job with that video. And so you say it was boring on purpose because you were quoting things, but
the first
I'm
10
gonna be
minutes.
honest. I'm gonna be honest with you. The first several minutes of that are important. Are important because I know when I started looking into some of these things, and I realized that history had been tampered with in many ways. And I wanted to say, okay, what's really going on here? That was one of the things that tipped the scales for me regarding Sabbath. I was like, it's like, man, there's tons of quotes here, where the Catholic Church is coming right out and saying, hey, here's the deal, and so anyway, continue.
And so, and like you're saying, there's tons of quotes. It was 10 minutes of quotes, but it wasn't even close to as many quotes as there are.
There's tons of them.
And then the next, it's a general overview as far as with Miatone, Sabbatone, and the 8 verses that are translated first day of the week, the 6 that come from the resurrection passages, Acts 22:16, and then 1 Corinthians 16:2. So kind of doing a little bit of general information there, and then it goes into the Didache and Justin Martyr, which are the biggest proofs that I've heard preachers talk about, for first day of the week. It's because of what the Didache said and because of what Justin Martyr said. And the problem with the Didache is what my third video that I came out with is that, especially for people of the Churches of Christ, and I know that not everybody believes as far as with baptism the same that I do. And I would like to have a discussion on that. I love any kind of discussion with anybody on any topic.
Cool. We talked about this on the phone, right? weeks back. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just saying the problem for Church of Christ is the Didache also says that you can pour 3 times for and it
Sure.
would be baptism.
Yeah, to say
Be a
that biblical
baptism.
baptism is, pouring 3 times.
Yeah, instead of immersion, instead of its what it means,
Yeah.
baptisma,
What
meaning
the word
immersion.
baptizo actually means,
Right.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you
and
on
it correlates, I mean, verbatim. The Didache correlates verbatim with their the Catholic Catechism and what it says. And I was like,
wow.
we can't pick and choose,
Yeah.
What parts that, okay,
Yeah.
so you say you're going to use this for Sunday worship, but what about here for baptism? Now, I thought this was the teachings of the apostles.
Yeah, it is kind of a hit or miss thing, and we talked about this as, the quote unquote early church fathers, right?
Right. Yeah.
Post apostolic fathers and all of that. And I was one of those preachers, for years that would quote, this guy and that guy. I'm quoting Origen, I'm quoting
Right.
Tertullian, and quoting all these different guys. And the thing is that and I think it's probably more than just in the churches of Christ, but certainly our experience that was the
Right.
case. But a lot of people will quote certain things when it fits with their doctrine and belief, right? And they'll say, right here it says blah blah blah, and then like you said, just like in the case of the Didache, to say, hey, over here it says this, and you're praising it. But then what about this over here? This totally contradicts what you would preach every Sunday from your pulpit. So yeah, I mean, when we see those types of contradictions, it is true, because I remember another preacher in the Churches of Christ on a different subject. We were talking about the covenants, and I remember he was getting some flack from a well-known guy, in the brotherhood, who, wrote in different papers and did a lot of speaking. And what he was doing was kind of like what you said, only he was doing it with the quote early church fathers. He was busting out some quotes from the early church fathers. And I thought it was pretty bold. This one guy that I was talking to, that had some teachings on these subjects of the covenants. He said, look, he says, you say the early church fathers, you're quoting here, but look over here what they say. I know you wouldn't believe that. You would not teach that as a truth. And he's like, we need to examine this phraseology, early church fathers, right? Like, okay, let's be careful with that, that designation. And, so other documents like you described, the Didache and so many others, and the church fathers, those over time can become so elevated, right? And equal to or superseding, the actual word of God. So so that was another thing that you were kind of like, hey man, this doesn't add up.
And that was the one. Those are the two guys that it was consistent that people were bringing up when it came to secular church history, or two secular church history things, sources. So, and that was I plugged myself into some Church of Christ Facebook forums, and when they talked about Sunday, I would try to, hey, what about this, and this?
You were chiming in.
I would chime in and see work on trying to show the eight verses in Sabbatone, but those, it would come back, like I said, it would come back to the secular church sources, and those two were the biggest ones. And so I wanted to make sure to include those in that video, and then go deeper into the Didache for the next video. But that video, the Catholics Change Sabbath, is definitely more introduction for the one, the Sabbath, because it's going to be like a 2-hour, I say it's like a 2-hour study.
Wow. Okay. So you guys heard that. So check it out. The one about the Catholics, change the Sabbath from Sunday, or change from the Sabbath to Sunday. Watch that video. And then this other one, you're hoping that you'll be able to upload it on Saturday. So check that out. I'm really excited because, we talked about, this on the phone, but when I kept coming up against, okay, this is what this word means, 80 something times in the book of Acts, Sabbatone was translated Sabbath, but then we get in Acts, 20 verse 7, and they translated it on the first day of the week. And I'm like, wait a second. It really should read on one of the Sabbaths, or on a certain Sabbath. not on the first day of the week. I mean, the word, day is not even in there.
Nope.
For one. But I remember
Yeah.
when I got into, because what do we typically do? Well, let's see what the commentaries say about this. So I went to some of the commentaries, and they're like, well, they're giving some gobbledygook about, well, this is a Jewish measurement of time called a Senite, and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, what? You're not even speaking English. Like, I told my wife can verify in the chat if she wants. She can verify that before we really got into the Sabbath discussion 2-3 years ago, when I came across this, I kind of did like you. I didn't know what to do with it. I told my wife, I said, there's something fishy here, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out. I don't really know what's going on because I'm not one of these scholars, all these scholars in the commentaries, and several of them were saying the same thing because, oftentimes they like to parrot each other. Right.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a second. I'm not a Greek scholar, but I took some Greek, and I know enough to say that if you've used it 80 something times and, in this one spot, and then a handful of times over here, all of a sudden it takes on a totally different meaning. And you mentioned also, in your video, look at the previous context of what's being said too.
Yes.
We often will just quote a verse. Well,
Yeah.
on the first day of the week, when they were gathered together to break bread. Okay, well, that's one verse, man. Like, back it up a little bit and then go a little beyond. So yeah, I mean, that's really cool that you're going to spend some time, and I know you've spent the time. So I'm looking forward to the release of this video. And if you have anything that you want to share regarding that, any highlights or just any questions that you're going to try to answer, just whatever you want to share about that real quick, if you have something off the top of your head.
Yeah, it's going to be divided into 2 parts, but both in the same video. The first part is going to be more talking about different things, history, generally talking about things relating to Sabbath, but then part 2 is it will be boring on purpose again. It will be it'll be a word study into Sabbath to show absolutely Sabbatone.
Yeah,
absolutely, it only means Sabbath, and saying that it means week is not. There's no precedent for it. There is, as far as in the 50, huh?
I said it's balderdash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The precedent for before the meaning, as I'm sure Wes Blaze, has been showing, is the Septuagint. 100% of the time, Sabbatone is translated as Sabbath. 100% of the time. And
very good point.
If they wanted to use week, they have a Koine Greek word for week, and that's hebdomus.
Yes.
They have it. So they didn't do it. And that word is plural. So why wasn't it weeks? Then if they did put it as weeks, it would, it still could work as far as, what do you mean one of the weeks? Well, the weeks leading up to what? Pentecost, which every single one, and that's the thing. That's the last thing I'll say. With all 8 verses, all 8 first day of the week verses, they are all in the context, as you were saying, of the spring feast and leading up to obviously Pentecost. Every single one of them is, and you just read the full context of Acts, read the full context of 1 Corinthians 16, and it says something totally different.
That blew me away. I mean, honestly, some of the points that you made in your video on that, I was like, for what I probably heard that before, but it didn't sink in. Sometimes you need to hear something over and over again, and then you're just like, it clicks. And I remember my wife and I were kind of listening in on, we were sitting on the couch, watching it on my phone. So it was a small screen. But anyway, I was like, man,
good.
Like, did you see what he just said? My wife was like, whoa, because she heard that. And she was like, whoa. and there's so many other, verses in scripture. Chris Bailey has brought this point out, from, I think it's in the Corinthians, where he says, let's keep this feast with sincerity, Well, keep the feast. What is he talking about? He's talking about a feast, but all the years that I, listened and also taught, we just, blow on by.
Yep.
So, hey, there's somebody, it looks like there might be someone special here in the chat. Let's see, pop it up on the screen.
Oh my goodness.
You know that lady?
Yeah, that's my wife.
Awesome. Welcome, Emily. Welcome. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be really cool when the video comes out. I'm definitely going to be watching it, and
Yeah.
I'm excited. No pressure, bro. I have to say, I was very impressed. Because when I watched the video, I thought your first couple of videos, I said, you know what, he's doing his homework. He's giving proper quotations. He's showing, scripture. He's showing the original, meanings of the words. And, he's taking a very serious approach to this. And I was impressed. I was like, hey, this is quality stuff. So be encouraged on that. And at the same time, don't feel like everything has to be perfect. I don't know if you're a perfectionist. I used to be more of a perfectionist. Now it's like so much stuff has come out of the wayside because of the way our world is. I'm just like, hey, sometimes it's like, hey, if I can just survive the day, or I'm dog tired, I don't feel well, but I need to do this live stream, Thursday night or something. And it's like, just try to power through, right? And there's always a blessing as a result. So yeah. So you mentioned that you're in Arkansas, right? And someone was asking again. But yeah, Arkansas, down in South Central, right?
Yes.
So that's cool that I have another truth friend down in Arkansas.
That's right.
So Arkansas is a long ways away, but
yeah.
If any more of my kids end up going down to Harding, then obviously we'll only be a few hours away from you. So we'll have to work something out about it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so check out his channel again, Carpe Verum. I know some of the mods put the links in the chat. I think there might have been there's two Carpe Verum. So make sure you get to Ruben's one.
Yeah.
That's the one with the 4 videos, and you'll see he's got his mugshot, on some of the thumbnails. So verify that, but make sure you get the right one. So, I'm super excited. I'm going to be praying, for the release of this new video and your continued studies. And I know we could probably go for hours and hours. We're getting close to an hour. Typically, I try to do about an hour on Journey to Truth. And for those of you who jumped in after I said, hey, this is Journey to Truth, this is like the return of Journey to Truth, because I've been on my new day job hiatus. So I just thought, hey, I wanted to do something special, to pop back in on Take on the World TV. And so I was like, man, I think, I've been talking with Ruben, and I was like, man, you're on vacation. When are you going to be back? And we worked it out that he could be live, the first live Journey to Truth in some time. So anything else that you want to tell us about your videos, direction you want to go, anything you want to ask for in prayer, to say, hey, pray about this, pray about that. What else would you like to share?
I probably, you caught me.
Okay, so I caught you off. Okay, who's this other wonderful person in the chat here that's 110%? You see that?
Oh my goodness, that's my mother.
All right, I had to know it was Mama.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, when she said 110%, I said, that sounds like something my mama would say. So welcome, Mama. I think you must have done something right, with your son here. And I'm not sure where you fall on some of these studies and ideas, but I really see, an honest student here. I see someone who's very genuine and who really does want to seek truth. He's not out to prove this or that for himself, but he really seems to have a heart to want people to know truth. And there's lots of important truths. Again, this is one very important truth. There's a lot of other important truths, but I really do believe, Ruben, that sometimes the Father calls certain ones of us maybe to have a particular interest in a topic, to really feel that burning desire to share. And I know what that feels like. Okay. I've had that a few times, maybe not a lot, but I've had them a few times in my life, and it's been a life-changing experience. And I know that, we take some hits for the team when we do that. And I understand, I can only imagine. And as you shared, the last several weeks, particularly, it can be difficult, when you stand up for something that you believe is true, and there can be opposition, so let's definitely let's definitely be praying then, since I kind of caught you off guard on the spot. Let's definitely be praying for Ruben and his family, and not just this subject, but all subjects relating to truth. I mean, I'm excited to be able to have on the show with me, someone who not just we have a lot in common with, but somebody who really does seem to be a genuine truth seeker. And I know that you'll give your best effort, and I know that it'll be very biblical. And so, if you haven't already, get on over to his channel and subscribe. You're also on Facebook. So I
Yes,
don't know
sir.
how many friends you have on Facebook, but I think you're allowed to have about 5,000. So maybe check out
Yeah.
Ruben Gay and Emily Gay. They're on Facebook. I guess if you're not too weird, they might add you. We're all weird, right? We're all
Yeah.
strange in several ways here, but it's been very good to have you with me.
Thanks
You've
for having
shared a
me.
lot. If you kind of came in late, when you have the time, once this video processes, you can go back through and watch from the beginning. Ruben gives just a little bit of background about his life, and of course, getting into the whole truth topics, and what happened first, and how that developed, and how he came to this subject of the Sabbath. So I hope that you've enjoyed being here. I know it's
Very
not
much.
something that you do a
Yeah.
lot, where like, hey,
Yeah.
every week I'm on a show, but I'm hoping that others will invite you to come share, these types of things and other important things that you're into, that you've studied out, particularly from the scripture. And so feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure we'll be texting a lot, and
Oh yeah.
checking in on each other.
Yes, sir.
Definitely be praying for Ruben and his family, because I know that there will be pressure, and there will be emotions, and there'll be a lot of things happening with shifts in their behavior and their beliefs. But let's just be praying that everyone who they come in contact with will have a heart to seek these things out for themselves, and even not even taking what Ruben's saying, but go to the scriptures that Ruben's
Yeah.
sharing, because I know that's what he understands to be most important. And so I'll try to, after you have your new video up on Saturday, I'll try to mirror that very soon as
All right.
well. And hopefully I can, maybe you can have you back sometime on Journey to Truth for kind of a part 2 or an update sharing.
Okay.
But certainly either that, or have you on Fired for Truth one time, which would be kind of cool as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But so thanks to everybody in the chat. I know you guys have been chatting it up real well in there, and seeing some familiar faces and even some new faces. And I was so excited that we could do this. I know everybody's probably tired, wore out. Some people are waking up early for their job, and some people are just like, man, I just need some more online fellowship. It's
Yeah.
it's so necessary for us to have encouragement, and it's always best in person. But it is a blessing to have technology, and to be able to to use it for good on platforms such as this Take on the World TV. So I guess we'll sign off for now. We've gone just about an hour. It's been a pleasure to have you with me, Ruben.
Thanks for
And
having me.
so anything you want to say before we call it good for tonight?
I just appreciate. Thanks for having me on your show, and just hope that everything that is done here is talked about, that is all for the glory of the Father. So
Amen. Amen. That's a great way to end. So we'll end with that, and keep posted on Facebook for the next Journey to Truth on Take on the World TV. And so this is Nate and Ruben and everybody in the chat signing off. So Ruben, don't go anywhere, but we'll end the
okay.
broadcast. So shalom and blessings, everyone. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.